Okay, first off, we're not going 45 minutes on a single game. We may go 45 minutes total on this show, but we will have a little bit more about it because on Friday, currently we have scheduled up, I believe, Nick Semptenfelter. I've got to get it right to join us. Talk a little bit about the wetsuit, since Coach Behrman threw him under the carpet, under the bus, whatever. About that, we will have to ask him a little bit about that. Although when they go to bury John Carroll on Friday, Saturday, it's supposed to be 60, I think.
He won't need it. Yeah,
no,
it'll be probably in the high 50s or so by kickoff. We're having a little cold front down here in the southeast, but it's nothing like what you guys are getting up there.
Yeah. We're not getting River Falls type weather, which is supposed to be -1 or so. But it's kind of crazy, the highs and lows of this. What scares me about all this is what in the hell is the weather going to be like in Canton on January 4th at this pace? That's where I'm getting a little bit scared on this. What are you thinking?
I might need a wetsuit. I might have to ask Nick about where I can get one in XL or double XL, depending on how, I got to see what goes on there.
But JB, the JB curse almost occurred again on Saturday because you were texting me while I was at the press conference, and when they were lined up for the 18-yard field goal that we'll see in crunch time coming up, you're like, oh my God, it's over. John Carroll's winning this, and then 18-yard field goal hits the upright in that wind,
Doink.
and yep. And then the face mask penalty occurs with Mount going downfield. You're like, oh, Mount's going to win after all. Oh, God. And sure enough, Mount didn't win. So you were 0 for 2 on that. It's not like your predictions on the show. It's your Saturday curses, apparently, that you have. So if you ever want to see, I should just live tweet your text messages for teams to understand when you say something's happening, the opposite's going to happen any second now. So that's the way it works. Yeah. Sure. Why do you keep doing this every year? I mean, you put up with me and my bad jokes, my dad jokes and bad humor and everything. I mean, why do you put up with this?
Yeah, like I said last time, it's really the conversations that we get to have with the players, and having gotten to know, like listening to Coach Behrman's interview this past week, and just having known him for about a decade or so now, and just what a huge achievement this is for him and his career. Not only the fact, is he going to the quarterfinals, but this is for his alma mater, and there's lots of longtime Blue Streaks alumni who've been just waiting for this kind of thing to come. And like you were saying before, everything was setting up for Mount Union's luck to, they have dodged bullets like this so many times because of missed field goals or face mask penalties. And I really thought oh man, Carroll had them and they blew it, but hey, you got to play the full time on the clock and all the way through to the end of fourth down. And, it was an interesting call there to let Mikey Maloney run it. I get it on one hand, especially given the 2 missed field goals that the Purple Raiders kicker had. It's interesting, Frank, how a lot of these elite programs don't always have elite kickers. I don't know. It's we've seen it with Marion Hardin Baylor. We've seen it with other big programs over the years, and every inch, every little point counts in these really close games. So.
I think technically it was 3 missed field goals if you count the block or quasi-block because of how low it was. But I have another philosophy as to why they went for it. I'll get to it on the other side of the intro because we need to start the show. This is our third round review show, our third round crunch time for season 18 of In the Huddle. Well, there it is, 2 overtimes. If you read the small print below that game, and it was our only overtime game, I believe, so far in the playoffs. Also, though, in the playoffs, we have now one game which is a shutout, and that was the game I attended, the Susquehanna game, 29-0. It's tough to see Eastern go through that scenario. We'll talk about that game, obviously, a lot more. And then for other features we're finding in the bracket, you're going to see here Wheaton at River Falls is a 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central start time due to other things going on in campus. I got the question, though, JB, why did Wheaton agree to this? Because it puts a lot of pressure on them. Even if you don't look at the weather forecast situation where, you don't want to play this game into 4 to 5 p.m., out there in terms of their local time, because it's going to get cold once that sun goes down. But with their Sunday restrictions, they have absolutely got to get back to campus on a 6-hour bus trip. So that's an interesting problem there. So I don't know how this plays out, if Wheaton could have vetoed it and what would have happened if they did, because it's supposed to be noon local time. That's the way this thing is supposed to work. And then North Central, you look at that score, we're going to see it in crunch time, that it's a little deceiving, but, La Crosse did hang in there to a certain degree, so we'll look at that as well.
Yeah.
And, you previewed it last week, that Bethel North Central game looks, based on stats, pretty darn interesting. We'll go back to tail of the tape on Friday to look at that game for sure. Having said all that, this is the time of the show where you're going to give us your 30,000-foot view of the third round. JB, the floor is yours. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, I think we got an all-time classic game in Mount Union and John Carroll on Saturday. It's something that we'll be talking about for years, if not decades to come. It was just one of those classic matchups between, two very old familiar foes. But this time, the underdog won, and that makes it a little more exciting in a way, because things were shaping up that it looked like Mount would dodge a bullet, and yet John Carroll made enough plays at the end to pull it off, and that made this Saturday even that much more exciting and special, because really the rest of the games were not really that competitive. There were certain scores that show that things were within one possession, but for the most part, no other games were kind of in doubt in the second half anyway. There were some interesting scores in the first half early on, but as it sort of shook out like we thought. I took a flyer on the Eagles for the heck of it, but I knew Susquehanna was going to win that game just based on the talent that they had. I think it was interesting though. I don't believe Rashawn Lamont suited up for that game, and that's a big question mark.
He did, but he had gotten banged up, and so they limited his snaps throughout that game.
Okay.
Coach Perk did talk about it in the post-game press conference because I asked him about it. You would think that ATN, which had played part of that press conference, would have played that part where he explained exactly what was going on. And as he admitted, if he had the ability to play Rashawn Lamont the entire game, he absolutely would play Rashawn Lamont the entire game.
Yeah.
And so they needed to limit snaps in that situation to make sure that he's going to be able to play in other future games, specifically this upcoming game versus Johns Hopkins. So it's an important catch by people out there to see that he didn't show up much in the box score, but Rashawn Lamont is going to be still a force to be reckoned with. Just to what degree, I'm not sure. So we'll see with that.
The only other thing I'll add is that I think, for the most part, the WIAC acquitted itself well. I mean, it did go 1-2, which is kind of what we thought would happen. But at least in the games that La Crosse and Platteville had, they looked good. I mean, the Eagles gave the Cardinals a pretty good run for their money there for a while. They scored first. The size of their line and some of the play of their quarterback. I think Kyle Haas had probably a career game. The wide receiver caught 4 touchdowns. We'll have the highlights of that in the crunch time segment. When was the last time someone scored 4 TDs on North Central? Single guy. So that's a pretty incredible performance. But once again, with only one team left in the quarterfinals, it does raise some questions. And I thought it was funny, Frank. I mean, last summer, when I made the joke about the WIAC not being so great, everyone brought their torches and pitchforks and wanted to burn me down at the stake. And then here's Grant Sabo from WONC, the play-by-play guy of NCC, claiming that the CCIW is the best conference, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay," So I guess it just depends on where you're located on the types of reactions that you get. Anyway, I thought that was funny, but hey, credit Wheaton. That game between them and DePaul, which we thought was going to be a close one, was not, and the Thunder looked really good.
Grant's a good guy. I've always had great interactions with him out in North Central.
He's
and
great.
I think he said some of it tongue-in-cheek, to be honest with you, and I think people realize he's a personality out there.
Yeah. I did too, and then people freaked out. I was like, what the heck?
Baker, you're the worst. You're the a-hole, Big Baker. Yeah, well, welcome. Yeah. Don't you know, don't piss off the WIAC Brotherhood out there on
the
Twitter.
The Midwest Alliance is strong, my friends.
I have blocked as many of them as I possibly can, and I'm sure I'm going to have to block more along the way on Twitter. It's not something I'm a fan of, but it's something you got to do, because otherwise you're going to just get roasted. And you'll get roasted anyway, but you don't want to see it every freaking 5 seconds out there. Whatever, it's time for crunch time, folks, and so here we go. This is the third round, week number 14 of the 2025 Division III football season. We're going to go a little out of order here this week. We're going to start actually in the upper right and go around the clock this week for some quasi, obvious reasons. We'll start with Wheaton at DePaul. And in this game, we're going to start 5:43 left first quarter, because we're already at 7-0, Wheaton leading. And Leighton Lukowski gets a 24-yard touchdown pass from Scott Ballantyne. And DePaul at that point is tied with Wheaton 7 apiece. 2 minutes into the second quarter, Whit Jewett gets a 60-yard touchdown pass from Mark Fercucci, who, back from injury, is looking better than ever right now. 14-7, Wheaton leads the game. Wheaton continues about 3 minutes later. Chandler Bryant gets his 51-yard fumble recovery for the touchdown. The scoop and score makes it 21-7 at that point, Wheaton. And then DePaul tries to come back. About 4 minutes later, Matthew Berry with a 41-yard field goal. That's 21-10, but that would be pretty much it for a little bit for Wheaton, or for DePaul, that is, as Wheaton comes back here with 8 seconds left in the second quarter. Riley Howard, an 8-yard touchdown pass from Fercucci, 28-10 at that point. And then in the third quarter, 2 minutes into it, here's Matt Kreider with a 31-yard touchdown run, 35-10. Then we're going to watch in the third quarter basically any chance for a comeback. DePaul here gets a fumble recovery with 8:23 left as Riley Howard fumbles the ball. But then you'll see 4th and 2 from the Wheaton 3. Scott Ballantyne is sacked for a 10-yard loss. It's a turnover on downs. And then you're going to see 1st and 10. It's Matt Kreider again fumbling the ball for Wheaton, and forced by Nathan Creed, and it's Joey Rowland with that recovery. But again, 4th and 6 here for DePaul from the Wheaton 17, and Ballantyne is intercepted by Colin Moore, and that would do it because really time was running out on them. The final score was 49-24, Wheaton winning this game. Ballantyne for DePaul, 25 for 43, 362 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mark Fercucci for Wheaton, 16 for 27, 293 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and interception. Matt Kreider from Wheaton, 2 rushing touchdowns. We'll also have here St. John's at UW River Falls. A minute into this game, St. John's Andrew Herron, a 2-yard touchdown pass from Trey Feeney, made it 7-0 Johnnies to start this game, but River Falls comes roaring back. Austin Rush is catching, again, a 6-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha to make it 7 apiece with 10:05 left first quarter. And then a minute into the second quarter, Trevor Asher gets this 1-yard touchdown run to end an 11-play drive, 14-7 at that point. River Falls leading. Third quarter, 8:26 remaining. It's Blake Rohrer, a 16-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha. That makes it 21-7, River Falls leading. And then the defense speaks up here, as with 5:11 left third quarter, it's Nick Wasco, a 56-yard pick six, makes it 28-7 at that point. River Falls wins this game 42-14. Trey Feeney for St. John's, 33 for 59, 274 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Caleb Blaha for River Falls, 342 total yards, 3 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and an interception. JB, we saw the semifinalists come out, no surprise for the Glory Trophy that Caleb Blaha is on that ballot and basically beat the team that controls the Glory Trophy. So they're going to have some first-hand votes, I think, to say that may be the best player in Division III. We'll see what the rest of the country says. What were your takeaways from this part of the bracket?
I was just surprised at sort of the level of mismatches that we saw. I thought that these games would be more competitive, but you got to give credit to both the Thunder and the Falcons. They had game plans put in and really executed well. I mean, I heard your voice rise when you said like 59 attempts for Trey Feeney. They couldn't run the football. I think they had like 8 or 9 carries for less than 10 yards or something. It was really lopsided. And maybe it was because they were just chasing being behind the whole time. But if you can't run the football, you're not going to stand a chance to win on any Saturday. And this DePaul defense, which had really bottled up teams all season long, Fercucci, who I had kind of forgotten was a FCS Holy Cross transfer, really had a day. And Kreider, once again, he was my offensive MVP last week, just keeps grinding it out. And that's the same kind of game plan that they're going to have to employ to potentially beat the Falcons in Wisconsin in what's going to be a freezing cold game. Sounds like a lot of low yardage running plays to Kreider and Fercucci looking to find some guys open over the top.
Well, that's what the running game allows you to do. It opens up the pass game for sure. And maybe with Fercucci, the way he's playing, it's actually having a reverse effect too, allowing Kreider to get some openness inside those gaps too, because they can't line up the linebackers as much as they might otherwise do because of Fercucci. When you got that balance going, you're tough to beat at this point in the season, and they do have that balance going right now, as you're pointing out. Let's go down to the lower right to the Christopher Newport quadrant. We'll start with Susquehanna at Eastern. We'll start here, 8:52 in the first quarter. It's Dominic Bourgeois getting a 45-yard field goal. That was going to be good from 60, folks, the way that he kicked that ball. 3-0 lead, Susquehanna. But they were kicking a lot of field goals here to start this game. 2:38 left first quarter. Dominic Bourgeois, again, a 39-yard field goal to make it 6-0, as Eastern was really struggling to move the ball in this game. We'll go, though, to 6 seconds into the second quarter, first play, and a punt attempt by Eastern, and you can see that snap went way over the head and went into the back of the end zone for the safety. 8-0. It's Susquehanna leading, and that would be the halftime score. 8-0 without a touchdown. Think about that. Third quarter, 7:21 remaining. It's 15-0 Susquehanna, thanks to Hunter Morganroth getting a 12-yard touchdown pass from Josh Ehrlich, who had kept that drive alive with his legs as well. That was a 13-play drive, making it 15-0. Go to fourth quarter, 9:08 remaining, and it's Aaron Angelo, a 20-yard touchdown pass from Ehrlich, makes it 22-0. But let's also hear from the defense. 5:08 remaining, fourth quarter. Xavier Maple, you got to watch it a couple times, I think, to fully appreciate him dislodging that ball and getting the 80-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown to make it 29-0 in favor of Susquehanna, which was the final score. Susquehanna's defense had 3 sacks and the fumble recovery touchdown you're seeing on your screen, and a safety and 2 interceptions. Josh Ehrlich from Susquehanna, 122 total yards, 2 passing touchdowns on the day. Salisbury at Johns Hopkins. It will go 14:45 first quarter, and here is Micah Brubaker, a 69-yard touchdown pass from Cyrus McGowan, giving Salisbury a big 7-0 lead early on. But midway through the first quarter, Bay Harvey gets his 3-yard touchdown run on an 11-play drive to make it 7 apiece as Johns Hopkins comes back and then roars past them with 9:23 remaining in the second quarter. Bay Harvey again, this time a 26-yard touchdown run. My goodness, 14-7 at that point in favor of Hopkins. We'll go up to Salisbury here with a Tucker Smack 20-yard field goal with 6:13 left second quarter, making this game 14-10. But Johns Hopkins goes in, basically touchdown chunks here as Cole Crotty gets a 26-yard touchdown pass from Bay Harvey, 21-10. So many offensive weapons for this Hopkins team. The teams would trade field goals before halftime. It was 24-13. Then Jeff Schroeder kind of puts this game away with a 2-yard touchdown run with 1:57 left third quarter, make it 31-13. Final score, Hopkins rolls over Salisbury, 45-13. McGowan, 161 total yards, 1 passing touchdown. Bay Harvey, 372 total yards, 3 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. You know, you go back to that Franklin and Marshall game, and it takes me back to something Nick Saban said last year to Pat McAfee about only 2 times in his time at Alabama did he have undefeated teams. The rest were one-loss teams because they needed to lose that game because they were focused on the wrong things, he said to McAfee. And I think sometimes that loss can be crucially important. And now with MPI in the 40-team situation, losses are somewhat forgiven now because you can still make the playoffs if you win the right games and schedule right. And long story short, this Johns Hopkins team looks better than ever after that fluky situation in Week 11. What's your take on it?
Yeah, no, I agree that Hopkins is really kind of rising at the right time, and everything kind of clicking. Harvey is also a Gagliardi semifinalist and could potentially be a finalist the way things are shaking out. I mean, the guy had 5 touchdowns, just an impressive performance for him. And, Susquehanna and going to Baltimore next weekend should be a great game. Like I've always said, it's tough to beat a team twice in one season. But going back to your point at MPI, it reminded me, Frank, of a little exchange that we had over the weekend where I believe during the press conference, Eastern effectively said that Susquehanna was the best team that they'd seen all season, but they're not the highest rated MPI team that they've seen, So they're, once again, the MPI rankings of, somebody who's number 9 or 10 versus 22 doesn't exactly tell the whole story.
No, and granted, it's partially Susquehanna's own fault for the 2 losses, but the 2 losses were to teams named Johns Hopkins and Christopher Newport. So it's not like they lost to the worst teams in the world. Those are 2 extraordinarily good teams that the rest of the story. So MPI has this. I said losses are forgiven, but not fully. They always count the way it's currently set up. Unlike wins, where some wins are actually thrown out. But more on that another time. Let's focus on what's in front of us because we have 8 great teams remaining. Let's get the rest of the way here as we go here to North Central and Lacrosse. We'll go second quarter, 10:44 left, and Thomas Skokna gets a 42-yard touchdown pass from Garrett Wilson. Skokna, a Gagliardi semifinalist also, 14-7 at that point in favor of North Central. Then we'll advance to 3:39 left in the second quarter. Garrett Wilson, some people thought he might get nominated, but he'll have a 14-yard touchdown run here, 21-7 in favor of North Central. 32 seconds left in the second quarter. Here's Romarian Roby. Remember him from our show? The 59-yard pick 6, 28-7 is what the lead would be for North Central after that pick 6. We'll advance to the third quarter, 6:45 remaining. Lacrosse tries to come back. Marko Radkovic gets a 3-yard touchdown pass from Kyle Haas to make it a 28-14 game, but North Central responds as Sean Allen gets a 6-yard touchdown run with 13:34 left in the fourth quarter to make it 35-14 Cardinals. 5:20 left fourth quarter. Here's Marko Radkovic again, getting a 22-yard touchdown pass from Kyle Haas to make it 35-21. Then they're going to go for the onside kick, and Michael Stack executes it well, and it's Lacrosse's ball. Here you'll see Kyle Haas, though, on 4th and 3 from the North Central 19-yard line. Incomplete, and that would be a turnover on downs. We'll show you the last touchdown because this is Marko Radkovic again, the 26-yard touchdown pass from Kyle Haas. with zeros on the clock made it 35-27, and that was the final score in favor of North Central. They led 28-7 at the half. Haas 34 for 58, 308 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Garrett Wilson 201 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. Then also we're going to talk here about Platteville at Bethel. With about 2 minutes gone in the game, it's Platteville's Trevor Burnett getting a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0 UWP in this game. They'd go up 10-0 on a field goal later in the first quarter, but Bethel would end the half with momentum in the lead. Here you'll see Tyler Terry getting a 5-yard touchdown pass from Cooper Drews to make it 14-10 Bethel at that point. Then we'll go third quarter, first play of the third quarter. David Giebley gets a 31-yard touchdown run. It's 21-10, Bethel leading. Platteville got within 35-24 late in the game and got the ball back, but with 3:25 left, he said. The 1st and 10 here, you're going to see Selding is intercepted by Will Barthel, and that would pretty much do it. Bethel wins 35-24. Zelding, 25 for 31, 298 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. Giebley, 21 rushes, 167 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Cooper Drews, 3 passing touchdowns on the day. Do you have any belief here? Sure, on NPI, they're 4 versus 5, which is the best remaining matchup NPI-wise, I believe, out there. Do you believe Bethel has a chance in this game? Previewing your thoughts for Friday's show.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they don't have the size of lacrosse, and so that might affect them later on in the game, but they do have an offense that can keep pace with Garrett Wilson and company. I mean, they got off to a little bit of a slow start against Platteville. I remember when I was watching some of the noon games and I saw it was 10-0 Platteville. I was like, uh-oh, that's interesting. But then all of a sudden it was 10-7, 10-14, 10-21, 10-28, like 28 unanswered points. And I was like, okay, the Royals are cruising. And their defense is good enough, and have some good players like Jake Borman, who we spoke with last weekend, and they're going to give the Cardinals probably their toughest test of the year. So I expect another close game, and the score of this game with lacrosse was close. It never really felt like North Central was in trouble, like you said, 28-7 at the half. There was the pick 6. I mean, maybe they let their foot off the gas a little bit, but at the same time, I think that lacrosse's size is something that will keep them competitive in games like this. And hey, they had a good year, but just came up a little short against the defending national champs, and there's a lot of teams that kind of come up short when they play North Central, so that's how it goes.
Well, I've got another game that feels the same way that game felt to it. We'll start within the upper left-hand bracket, and that's Trinity at Barry. Scoreless first quarter in this game. We'll go second quarter, 8:46 remaining, and here we go again with that 2-point conversion after a touchdown by Barry, with Josh Rogers getting a 24-yard touchdown pass from Christian Lewis to make it 8-0 for the second straight week. That's what the starting score was in a Barry game. We'll go also now to 1:52 remaining in the second quarter. Colby Sykes gets his 28-yard touchdown run, making it 22-0, Barry leading. The teams would trade touchdowns in the third quarter, but this gave Trinity 2 points. You'll see here the extra point return for 2 points by Jaden Powell, making it 28-9 at that point. 3:31 left, third quarter. A minute and a half later, Trinity with the ball back. Alejandro Tavares, a 20-yard touchdown pass from Hondo Franklin, makes it 28-15. But Barry's Trey Richards would get a 30-yard field goal here with 5:10 remaining in the fourth quarter. 31-15 at that point, Barry leading. Trinity's Alejandro Tavares again. This time gets a touchdown pass from Hondo Franklin and makes it 31-23 with 2:57 remaining. You see Jackson Verenian trying the onside kick here, and it's successful, but Trinity does get unsportsmanlike conduct, so pushes them back to their own 33-yard line. 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Hondo Franklin is incomplete on fourth down, and that, wait, we got a flag. Pass interference. This drive continues. Yep, a minute later, 3rd and 3, though, Franklin is intercepted by Chaz Pope, and that would do it. what a real rally there for a team that just seemed out of it completely in Trinity. They do lose as Barry wins 31-23. Barry led 22-0 at halftime. Franklin, 28 for 46, 326 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Christian Lewis, 154 total yards, 1 passing, 2 rushing touchdowns, and an interception. So who will Barry play? Well, it's going to be the winner of this game of John Carroll at Mount Union, and we kind of know the story already. We're going to go deep into this game. Here we go. First quarter, 11:56 remaining. Nick Turner, an 85-yard touchdown pass from Mikey Maloney, made it 7-0 right off the bat, and everybody thought, here we go again, just like last year, Mount Union with the lead early. But you're going to see here Ivan Merrick getting a field goal attempt for 41 yards as no good, and that would make it still 7-0 late first quarter. We'll go to the second quarter. The defense for Mount Union did well too here as Nick Septenfelter is sacked and loses the ball, recovered by Weston Arthur. So Mount Union's defense having a good day at certain times as well. But you're going to see later on in the ensuing drive, the 48-yard field goal attempt by Merrick is no good. And so we go to halftime, still 7-0, Mount Union leading. Third quarter, 5 minutes into it, Shane Lindstrom gets a 29-yard touchdown pass from Nick Septenfelter. That tied the game up at 7 apiece. Third quarter, 7:30 remaining on this first and goal from the 8, and Sean Thomas rushes up for 2 yards, but fumbles the ball for Mount Union, and ultimately Lamar Thomas from John Carroll is recovering it at the 6-yard line. My goodness, an opportunity missed by Mount Union. Here, though, in a drive that started with 7:35 left in the fourth quarter, you're going to see a 2nd and 8 play, more John Carroll defense as Mikey Maloney is sacked for a 5-yard loss, and that would cause issues. It led to a punt to John Carroll's 1-yard line with 2.5 minutes left. John Carroll would get across midfield to face 4th and 9. You'll see here that Septenfelter is incomplete. That would lead us to overtime. In the first overtime, Ivan Merrick, in his 3rd field goal attempt in the game, is no good from 37 yards. It was blocked, according to this, by Tommy Wasinski. Granted, it was kind of just low as it started. So John Carroll has a chance to win. We'll go to 2nd and 9 from the 9-yard line of Mount Union. Tyron Montgomery gets 8 yards to the Mount Union 1-yard line. You'll see the 3rd and 1 play. Instead of trying to run it, Nick Septenfelter passes the ball incomplete. And so now they're going to have to kick the field goal on the hash, basically. 4th and 1 from the 1, an 18-yard field goal is no good off the upright. Oh my goodness. We watched this during the press conference with Perk in the Susquehanna game, and we all were like, oh no. And we go to a second overtime. Colin Schuler, though, responds. They just got 3 yards on the next drive, and Schuler kicks a rainbow shot, basically. 39-yard field goal that is good. 10-7, John Carroll leads. We'll go to Mount Union's possession in double overtime. Sean Thomas gets this 1-yard rush, but he also has his face mask pulled, and that would push the ball all the way up to the 12-yard line to start Mount Union's possession. We'll go to 4th and 2 at the John Carroll 4-yard line, and here's the audio of WJCU 88.7.
Maloney alone in the backfield, motion before the snap. Maloney takes the snap, looks to throw, moving up through pressure, and he's tackled at the line of scrimmage, and the Blue Streaks defeat the Purple Raiders and will move on to the next round of the NCAA postseason.
9 years long for the Blue Streaks since they last defeated Mount Union, and the Blue Streaks take it home in the 3rd round of the playoffs. History has been made today.
Owen Close and Nicolina Samak with that great call, and that would do it. As it was the shot heard round the bracket, John Carroll wins in double overtime, 10-7 over Mount Union. The John Carroll defense held Mount Union to 4 for 16 on 3rd and 4th downs combined. Mikey Maloney, 262 total yards, 1 passing touchdown. Nick Septenfelter, sorry we had to abbreviate you, Nick, 25 for 40, 264 yards, 1 passing touchdown. Colin Schuler from John Carroll, 1 for 2 on field goals, including the 39-yard game winner in double overtime, or would-be game winner, thanks to that defense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a philosophy, not just on what happened on the field goal mentality there, JB, but the other thing I think Mount Union was looking at and why they went for it is this. The new overtime rules from the last couple of years state that if we got to a 3rd overtime, then it is only a battle of 2-point conversions. And I think that a team like Mount Union feels that they're going to win true possessions more often than not in those scenarios, but not 2-point conversions necessarily, because those are fluky plays. So the nature of triple overtime and beyond is something that Mount Union did not want to be a part of, I don't believe. And so that's why they tried to win it outright in the second overtime. What was your thinking as you were watching this play out in real time as well?
I was just thinking that this was going to be another one of those games that Mount Union would just find a way to win, because that's how it's always gone. You know, they always get the lucky bounces. They always, you know, get the calls. Like when the face mask thing, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. That's going to be why John Carroll loses. But, you know, this was just one of those situations where I think, you know, everything kind of fell into place for the Blue Streaks. And even though Nick Semptenfelter didn't have his best game, he made some big plays when he needed to. And really it was I think the story of this game were some of the stands that the defense made. And it was funny because I was watching Twitter while I was watching the games, and there was a former Purple Raiders player who was saying, this is shaping up exactly like how they beat us in 2016, because we couldn't convert third downs. I think the stat from the slide before said that they were, 4 of 16, about 25% on third down. They went 1 for 3 on fourth down, and that is very un-Mount Union-like. They could not move the sticks, and that's what kept John Carroll alive during that game. If they converted a couple more of those, maybe they get 10 or 14 points. This could have been a totally different outcome. But for the maybe one time in a decade or whatever, the bounces didn't go the Purple Raiders' way. And Coach Behrman and the Streaks are streaking into the quarterfinals.
Football is legitimately a chess match at all times, and then sometimes you're playing with a couple fewer pawns or major pieces, but you can still win the game if you know how to finesse down that chessboard, and that is what makes football the great sport it is, and why we enjoy it so much every season.
One thing, speaking of the defense, it does bear mentioning is Dean Paul, the defensive coordinator for JCU, former head coach, a guy who beat Mount Union as a head coach 20 years ago with Ohio Northern, was a big reason, I think, for that win. I mean, the combined brain power of him and Jeff Behrman, I think, is part of the reason why, if not a good, obviously players have to play, but the coaches set up the game plan, and really what Coach Paul put together for that defense was just a master class in how do you bottle up an offense that is so explosive. And Mikey Maloney's been one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they really bottled him up and made him look kind of human for a change.
I want to kind of stress what you just said about Dean Paul, who's a friend of the show over the years from his Ohio Northern days. His wife, had cancer, and the team had shaved their heads, remember back when, and everything else. And so as things were going, a weird way for him, to see him lean to John Carroll and to help lead that defense the way he did for the Blue Streaks team, that's one of the best feel-good stories we can really look at. The Jack Curtis story this year is obviously one big one, but Dean Paul and seeing his effect on that John Carroll team, to me, knowing some of the backstory here, is such a huge story. And kudos to Jeff Behrman for making him a coordinator on his staff, because that is a true great football coach, Dean Paul. And not all coaches will take a former head coach on like that, but Jeff Behrman's a smart man and did so, and look at the results of it. Now they got to face Barry. They haven't won anything except for a football game. They have not won a championship. So let's talk about that.
Georgia.
Yep, we'll talk about that on the other side of crunch time for week number 14, the third round of the Division III college football season for 2025. JB, let's get you to MVPs first before we talk kind of looking forward a little bit here. And, I'm going to make a statement here for your offensive MVP. Bay Harvey and Caleb Blaha both play at a very similar style. And if you're going to call Caleb Blaha the best player in Division III, I'm going to see you on that and raise you a Bay Harvey, because I think that Bay Harvey is the reason why this team is where it is. His leadership, his ability, his legs are just as much a part of it as Caleb Blaha's. Now, the one thing I'm going to say for both quarterbacks, you can't do it without that offensive line for both teams. Both teams have excellent offensive lines. But Bay Harvey, the experience he has too, I'm debating who I'm going to vote for number one on my ballot. Bay Harvey is going to be right there at the top no matter what. I will say it flat out right now, but where and how, we'll figure that out very soon. Go ahead. Tell us more about Bay Harvey that I haven't already said.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was tough to pick a single offensive MVP this weekend because there were so many great performances, but I went the easy route. Who had the most touchdowns? This guy. So 5 touchdowns, both through the air and running it in with some great athleticism. Bay Harvey made it easy for me in that respect to pick him as my offensive MVP, and so there you have it. Colin Schuler, who we just saw a couple times, yeah, he missed the chip shot, and I did hear Coach Behrman in the ATN interview say I could have maybe set things up better for him to be successful to make that kick. But at the end of the day, to drill a 39-yarder after you missed the close one to put your team on top, I think that's an MVP style performance. It's not always about being perfect. It's about rising to the occasion when the team really needs you, and Colin did that. And then Ramir and Roby, who we had on in the preseason, I don't know if you saw from the video clip, it's pretty crazy that he was able to even see and get to that, and at the end of the day, 7 points was basically the difference of technically 8, but basically a possession was the difference in that game. I mean, both Barry and NCC were held to 7-8 points in the second half of their games. I don't know if they did that intentionally because they kind of pulled back, but ultimately that pick 6 was a pretty key play in the grand scheme of things because it just gave them enough of a cushion to kind of keep that lead and keep the Eagles at bay, even though they kind of started to come back in the second half.
Comebacks in the second half are not what I'm specializing in here when it comes to playoffs, at least, as we are both 5-3 for the week. I still trail by 5, 187-79 versus 192-74 for you. What is that, 73% for you or something like that?
Yeah, that's the same as last year. I'm pretty consistent, 73%.
Ho hum. So, JB, let's go back to the brackets here and begin to scope out how things are playing out, as we basically have filled out these brackets the way that we've set them up on our, AI bracket view here. Yep. So we do have a semifinals and championship view coming up starting next week, obviously. But first, John Carroll Barry. Now, here's a situation where, again, I just said it in Crunchtime or at the end of it, they haven't won anything but a football game here. And yeah, it's a huge football game. Brian Polian, the AD, congratulations to him. He's that victory lap. Yeah. He deserves that victory lap because of all the crap he's been put through. You're running from everybody.
You're ducking Mount Union, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I think that was one of the best clapback burns that I saw this whole weekend. I was like, wow, that was really well done.
Yeah, the duck quacked is what happened there. So John Carroll Barry, though, and Barry is the better team in NPI at the very least. But, Christian Lewis's numbers are not eye-popping. We talked a little bit about how some of that plays out with tail of the tape, and we'll see that on Friday specifically. But, Barry, how are they winning games in your mind, or from what you're seeing to the degree they're winning them? Because look, to go up 22-0 on Trinity to start the second half, or to have that lead heading into there, is no small feat with the line play that Trinity has and everything else. So, what are you attributing this to, that Barry is doing this well, this late, and this deep?
I haven't looked at all the stats, but I think they've been shutting down their opponents' running games, making them into one-dimensional teams. I think they held the Tigers to 10 yards rushing, and I think against LaGrange they allowed more rushing yards, but LaGrange can't really pass the ball. So they focus on basically limiting one half of the offense, and then that usually leads to some field position things when it comes to punting, and kind of sets them up with short fields. And their defense is usually good for an interception or some kind of turnover or special teams play that helps them from either a field position or a scoring perspective. So they do a lot of the defensive and special teams things really well. And then when it comes into kind of short yardage red zone offense, I think that they're really good at converting to points. They may not be the prettiest offense. The plays may not look great. They may, and they bring in a second quarterback to run the ball in, that kind of thing. But they find ways to score when they're in the red zone, and they play good defense, and that's carried them to the Elite Eight. So they're doing something right.
You got that right, absolutely. But I think it's a team that's caught a lot of people off guard, and John Carroll. Jeff Behrman is not being caught off guard by any stretch of the imagination. He knows that Coach K's got a great team down there and coaches very well. But the question is, do they have enough offensive prowess to go against that defense that John Carroll has? Because clearly that defense is very good based on what they did to Mount Union on Saturday. More about that on Friday. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But let's go here to the North Central bracket. We've talked a little bit about this already. Bethel and North Central. The stats will tell you that this game is going to be one of the best games in this playoff that we've seen so far. The MPI rankings would tell you the same thing. Will it play out that way, though? You never know. That's why we play the games, right, at the end of the day. Wheaton at River Falls. Now, you've got two very interesting coaching styles and team styles in terms of the offenses that we're going to see here. Caleb Blaha is I said my piece about Bay Harvey. I'll say it. Caleb Blaha does deserve all the kudos he's getting. There's no doubt about it. He's extraordinary. And I said last week, JB, that game versus St. John's was a crucial game for the WIAC's whole bragging rights thing. They absolutely manhandled St. John's in that game. And so, that's your best team in the WIAC, and they're performing very well. So I give them credit here. But now a big game against a team, Wheaton, that is just underneath the 30 number in MPI. And, Coach Scott, I think, thinks that people have a disbelief. I don't disbelieve in Wheaton right now. Their losses were to North Central and Mount Union. Okay?
Yeah.
Most coaches would say, I'll take that all day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So begin to give us a little bit of a preview here on how that sets up.
Yeah, well, I think this is an interesting, tale of two different teams. I mean, I think Wheaton's a kind of power rush team that now with Fercucci can set up some longer passes down the field. I'm forgetting the guy's name, unfortunately, but number 44, who looks like a tugboat, and he should be listed as a fullback. He's listed as a tight end. Creates an interesting dimension to the Wheaton offense, in that they can line him up as an extra blocker in the run game. He can get out in the open and catch passes, and so he's a little bit of a wild card. But with Blaha and this Top Gun offense, ultimately it's going to boil down to, can the Thunder defense come up with a few more stops than other teams just can't seem to do, because Blaha is always able to run out of trouble, find guys deep, when things kind of get crazy and coverages break down. So this will be a game. It'll be frigid cold, and that won't necessarily affect the passing game because these guys are used to playing in cold conditions. But you don't know. There could be a slippery ball. There could be an interception, fumbles that could change things. Bad snaps. So we'll have to wait and see, how clean of a game this is. But this should be another exciting close call for us fans to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Tight end Riley Howard, I believe, is who you were trying to think of, number 44.
Howard, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So then we'll go to the bottom right, and Susquehanna versus Johns Hopkins. And if you asked me coming into this if I thought this would be the matchup of the quarterfinals, I would have said yes, because I had a belief in Susquehanna. I had a belief in Johns Hopkins, and here we are again for a rematch. But, JB, the question is Susquehanna a different team right now that can turn around what was really not that great of a game versus Johns Hopkins? They were within points, obviously, to have a chance. But the feel of that game was Johns Hopkins pretty much all the way, as far as I was concerned there. Does Susquehanna have a different feel right now to you to make this a much different game?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It's funny. I mean, a lot of times in football, you talk about, at this stage in the game, it's, everyone's banged up and everyone is like nursing injuries and guys aren't 100%. But I think that what I've seen with Susquehanna is that early part of the season when they were struggling, they weren't mentally, strong or 100%. And I think what's happened over the course, after going through some of those difficulties, they have slowly picked themselves off the mat and their confidence just keeps growing and their execution gets better. And they've gotten to a point now where they believe like we're a Stag Bowl quality team and we can beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. And so I think they're going to come into this game with a lot of confidence. They're going to feel like they absolutely have the players and ability to beat Hopkins. And I think this is going to be a great game that's going to come down to the play of two, All-American caliber quarterbacks in Ehrlich and Harvey. So we're in for another treat with this one. Should be a great one.
One thing I'll say, and Coach Perkovich pointed it out, and so did Josh Ehrlich, the youth on their offense, because of the graduations that they had and offensive line and everything else, tells you that this is a very different team as they've matured through this season. And so watching that maturity, I think they do need Rashawn Lamons, though, to be healthy for this game to have a real chance.
Yeah.
And remember that in the game versus Johns Hopkins last time was, I believe, his re-entry after not playing in the first couple of games this season. So, here we go again, unfortunately for Rashawn, and, the setup for this game. But I think the line play is a lot different right now for Susquehanna. And I think, it's going to be, for Coach Wadika, a very interesting chess match, different than last time, because they've got film on each other from that game. So now they can study how to, play off of that, let alone the other film that they're getting.
Yeah, but I feel like guys like Leighton and Minotaur from Susquehanna on the defensive line have raised their quality of game, which is important because
Xavier Maple,
they need to have the pressure on Harvey, because Crotty, if he's in one-on-one man coverage, that's trouble. I mean, they're going to have to figure out, they may have to roll safety over or do something, because Crotty is so hard to deal with from a defensive planning perspective, that they're gonna need that pressure up front to give the secondary some relief from these world-class receivers that Hopkins has.
Xavier Maple is a absolute phenom out there, the way he's playing lately on, in the backfield, not in the backfield, and everything else. So you're going to have to watch out for him for sure. Friday's show, we'll have a couple interviews. We'll go through things a lot more in depth, have the tales of the tape for the quarterfinals. We're down to 4 games left this week, 7 games overall. Who's going to win the championship? We'll find out little by little here over the next few weeks. But for now, for JD, it's Frank saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Friday for Friday Live. Thanks for watching.